Alright, so this cold is not getting any better. Feel like absolute garbage, but I've got 2 videos I have to completely record today because I need this stuff picked up and out of here. And then I've got another one that I need to go outside and try to finish. So we're just going to try to power through as horribly as it's going to be. So for this video, we're going to be looking at this. This is an HP Ultra Slim desktop. The tag on the case says it's a DC7100. The actual motherboard reads as a 7600 and requires the drivers for a 7600. So I'm going to go with it's a 7600. Somebody probably just put the top panel. Well, no, because the COA for Windows XP actually activated on this motherboard. I have no idea. I would say I care, but I don't. Whether you call it retro or not, it is a Pentium 4, so it is older. But we're going to take a look at this, and then we're going to go over the benchmarks for it. This is kind of interesting how it actually benchmarked. So we have the Pentium 4 designed for Windows XP. This is an ultra slim desktop, so it's maybe 4 inches tall. I have a laptop DVD drive that Windows XP actually does not recognize a driver for, but the system does, so it works. It just doesn't work with XP, which I don't really care because I don't really use this. It's just kind of a novelty to have. I got it for 20 bucks. It was kind of cool to play around with. Mic and headphone jacks, then 2 USB 2.0s up front. Pull the case off, and there's a fair bit of stuff crammed in here. We have a cage for the riser card that isn't even in here, which actually might be... Yeah, this probably is a DC7600 to 71 case then, because there's no riser card with it. It does have a PCI Express slot, which I guarantee you will never be used. I don't think this is only like a 200, 300 watt power supply. It's not very big. It's enough to handle the Pentium 4, but I don't think you're putting an actual graphics card in there. Speaking of which, this is the Pentium 4 itself under here. We've got an intake fan, and then blowing across the heatsink, and then probably is intaking. Yeah, never mind. I'm sick, leave me alone. Intake cool air across the back, across the chipset, and then across, and then out the front. And then I've got 2 sticks of DDR2 2 gig in here, and then underneath is a 200 gig hard drive. And you can see the pain in the butt way to actually get this thing apart. So I'm not going to go that deep into it. This is more just kind of a system overview plus discussing the benchmarks for it. So I will give credit, it is quiet. Now this is only a socket 478, this is not a 775, I don't believe. It might be because it's DDR2. Actually, yeah, it probably is because it's DDR2. We'll let that boot up and we'll go poke around in the system a little bit. Alright, remember this? The old glorious Bliss wallpaper. This I put XP on this because it's what it shipped with, and this will never connect to the internet, so it's good. It's a good test bench for that. It is a 775 because it is DDR2. It's Pentium 4 521 at 2.80 gigahertz. 1 meg of L2 cache. It is a single core hyper-threaded processor running on the Intel 945 chipset. Got 4 gigs of RAM in it, and then the Intel 82855 chipset or graphics. And the old days of Windows XP. Remember when you actually had to go into the device manager? Now, I have downloaded the software for both the 71 and 7600, and the errors I cannot get drivers to install for. I know better than to try Windows Update. I'm not even going to mess with that, but let's actually go ahead and uninstall these entirely, and then next time it reboots, we'll see what it does. Um, but mostly everything booted up cleanly. I do still like having actual my computer. 186 is 200 gig hard drive, 4 gigs in use. Could probably do some extremely light gaming on it, but I don't really have any need for it. This mainly sits up on the shelf, is its life. There's not too much else there to it. Let's see if I can get into setup real quick. The setup on this, yeah. So the setup on this is about as ridiculously basic as you could ever believe. The system itself does identify as a DC7600 ultra slim desktop. 4 gigs of 667 memory. Believe this was from around 2005, 2007. 2005 was when LGA 775 came out. That's when the BIOS was updated. But this is a very, very basic setup. And technically, yes, this was a business desktop. It was not designed to be in the hands of private people. So go ahead and reboot it, see what it does with the drivers. It's probably going to complain that there's no drivers and error them all out and leave us right back where we were. But you know what, just for the heck of it, let's just see what happens. Boot time actually isn't terrible on it, but there's also nothing running. It's a clean install of Windows. The old welcome sign. Let's see if I can get it to bring me up. It's new hardware wizard, no. Even when I installed the audio codecs, it just said, no, your system does not have this hardware, so I don't know what hardware it thinks it has, but it's not what drivers are up on HP's website. And I also don't really care because I'm not going to use this system, but it would be kind of annoying if I was actually needing this. That one disappeared, but the audio and the DVD drive are still dead. Alright, so the benchmarks for this are actually rather interesting. While they are a business grade systems, I kind of expected to have a little bit wider gap than the Pentium 3 that we benchmarked. The Pentium 4 only benchmarks at a 315 marks versus the Pentium 3 866 megahertz that benchmarked at 231. So 2.8 gigahertz Pentium 4 only benchmarking just a little bit ahead of a P3 is kind of weird, especially for a socket 775. Now you have to remember we are using Performance Test 9, so it's not really designed for this level of older hardware. But the other thing is we also don't know what damage or what use this system has had. So it could be that the P4 is worn out, not adequately cooled, and it's just not performing as it should be, but it is still registering at 2.8 gigahertz for its clock speed. So I would have expected it to clock a little bit higher than that. So that's really kind of interesting at how small the performance variable is there between the P3 and the P4, even though the P4 is 3 times the clock speed. The other thing that was comical with this is that the system had a total overall pass mark rating of 48. The minimum ever recorded supposedly was a 45. And that was what the software said. It wasn't connected to the internet, so how accurate it is, I don't know. But it said the minimum ever recorded was a 45, and we posted a 48. 0 percentile, absolute hot garbage. But it did complete all the benchmarks. The Pentium 3 system, the graphics would not complete the benchmarks, so we were only able to run the CPU test. We were not able to test the integrated graphics because they could not even handle just the basic software testing. So we were not able to get a full mark rating on that. Maybe if I went out and bought an EGP card and tried that, I might be able to get it to go. But that would be only something that I would waste time on if I like found a AGP card for $3 at a thrift store or something. Which I found a couple PCIEs. I did buy one, which I would use on video, but I can't because the fan is shot. So it is a nice thing to test out a motherboard that doesn't have onboard video, but because the fan is shot, I can't make a video using that card because you won't be able to hear anything other than the grinding and screaming of the fan. So it's a plus minus, but it was $3, but it wasn't really that big a deal. So if you're wanting something to play around with, just purely to mess around with, these are decent, but go with one of the higher grade ultra slim desktops with one of the i-series. No matter what, an ultra slim desktop is going to run you about 80 to $100 on eBay, because power adapters on the newer models, this one has a built-in power supply, the newer ones have power adapters with them, and those have kept the prices up even on the older models. But you can get a Elite Desk G800 for $130, and that's got an i5 4000 series in it, and that's not bad. That's very low priority on my list of things to play around with, but I would at one point like to get one of those in to benchmark it, just see what they actually offer. Now, business grade computers are really designed to be abused and run one or two software at the same time and run them all day, every day, until the components just can't work anymore. You'll run an antivirus, and you'll run your point of sale, or you'll run your whatever else you're going to run with, your email or whatever, but you're not designed to game, you're not designed to do a bunch of things all at once. So you don't need a lot of processing power, and you need very little graphical power. So for what it is, I still expect it to be a little bit higher, but it's still pretty cool. So that is the DC7600, or 7100, or whatever it is, the Franken HP. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more benchmark videos. We've got an extreme build coming up that I need to get done. That's the other thing I need to get done today, is get the Core 2 Extreme system put together and run that through its paces. So we'll sign off for this one, and we will see you on the next one.